All right. Word on the street is I'm live. Woohoo! All right, let's see if we have audio. All right. All righty. Sounds like we are live. Cool. YouTube is giving me all these like, oh, you need to have pinning stuff. It's just silly. All right, we are going to talk elevators today because I have so many and I've never done a stream on YouTube and might as well start where we started our channel, you know? This was the very first one I ever built. Right here is my 3x3 elevator. This is not quite as live as it's not quite live as Twitch. It looks like a little bit more of a delay, but we will deal with that. So, all right, let's start with talking about what I'm planning to do for the channel. I have some stuff and things right here. We are going to start off kind of talking about what I am thinking. So we are really close to being monetized, and I'm super excited about that. I never thought I'd be the elevator guy. I mean, look at this place. I just made one elevator video, and then before you know it, we had elevators everywhere. And this is my first world I really started doing YouTube in. But I learned a few principles along the way, and so today I'm going to stream and I'm going to show how to do your own elevator from the ground up. How to invent your own, basically. Because there's a lot of moving parts to it, and it gets hairy the bigger it gets. I forgot how bad some of these are. Look at this one. This is ridiculous. There's way too many blocks on that piece. But what you have to do is figure out how to solve your slime problem. Let me see. So this piston elevator is kind of the basics. Let's talk real quick about how to do different types of elevators with the starting point, because you'll notice, let me see if I can find one, you'll notice that they're not all shaped the same. So they're almost all this way, but there are a few of them, if you pay close attention, like this one, that we shook it up a little bit. And there's actually several ways of doing this. So let's talk about basics in elevators. So an elevator is fundamentally an infinite loop that something has to stop. If I get an obsidian out, obsidian is your best friend, especially in creative mode, because it just says, hey, stop here, don't break. We're going to need to do something to stop it, and it's just the cleanest way because it's tried and true, and it's blast proof too, which prevents other weird issues. So you can do this, and this will cause this to go in a loop, but it doesn't actually matter where you power it, generally speaking. In Java, you're actually pretty flexible because a piston actually can be powered from a block adjacent to it. And so you don't want to do this, but you want to do it where it's on the side that is the back of the piston. Does it make sense? And so you can actually do right here for this one. You could do it right here. You could do it right here. It doesn't really matter. And then that's going to push these three, and then you're going to pull. So when you're trying to do some counting, and counting is going to become really important in a second, you want to make sure you have under 12 in order to be able to move it. Because, for example, if I were just to take a button and put it on here, you're going to have some problems because now that we have more than 12, nothing's going to happen. So if I come here and try and make this go, nothing happens because we're overloaded. And so you need to keep track of how many you have. And so that includes, it does not include the piston, but it includes anything that it is pulling. It does not include anything that thing is pulling. So right now this is pushing 1, 2, 3, just like we saw. And so if we were to have an observer right here, that's pushing 4. And so my general rule is I just kind of assumed those 4, and so I had 8 blocks to work with. And so you can put 1, 2, 3, 4 in any of your favorite blocks on this. Let's choose our favorite block. Let's choose some sand blocks and some slabs. And what's something else fun to grab? Let's pull. A lot of blocks don't actually pull very well. I think you can pull fences though, no problem. And so that is exactly 12 blocks. And so now you should be happy. So when you trigger this one to push it upward, it's going to do that. But you need to have one on each piston. See, that causes an infinite loop. This is what you want to avoid in where things can go wrong. So if you accidentally power things like this, you get this, and it's really annoying. Just let it sink in how annoying that is. But now we've got a full elevator. Your clicks will actually go straight through it sometimes because the blocks are in motion. It's a little weird because they never not in motion, so you're going to have to click spam. So now it should hold down and up. And so now we've actually got, see, because these are ticking at the same exact time, it doesn't matter if you have multiples. But generally speaking, this is the principle. So this is kind of like elevators 101. And for any elevator going up and down, you can have, as long as you have one on this piston, so it's powering this one, and then this is powering this one. I will go as long as I want to go, as long as we go. I plan for an hour, we'll put it that way. I kind of locked in like 2 hours with Twitch, but Twitch kind of encourages you to go for a set amount of time. YouTube just kind of has a start time, and we can go as long as we want to go. And so I booked the next 2 hours, but if I run out of stuff to talk about, I don't want to drag on people's time if they see the recording, so we'll just end it when we come to a good stopping point. But if you guys have a lot of questions, I can take pretty much all night. I'm trying to dedicate a day to be streaming day, and I was negotiating it and decided that it was going to be Thursday. So here we are, kind of short notice, because we realized, oh, if I were to do it on a Thursday, today's a Thursday, and if we're going to do it for more than... If I'm going to be able to have it out there so people can see the notification on YouTube, I got to put it out now, and so here we are. But so anyway, with elevators, the trick to be able to do the big ones is to know that a piston can push more blocks as long as it's not pushing them at the same time. And so whereas you're limited to these 4, remember we're pushing this piston, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10, 11, 12, there's your max you can push. This one doesn't count if it comes up and then this one fires it. So this can push another 12 blocks, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so now we should, if I counted correctly, let's find out, we should be able to like that. So there's a principle of elevators to know, and that, I don't know where that came from. How long that's been up here, who knows? Looks like it's a test that we just got right into. Hello. So yeah, so what happens if there's a 13 block? Well, you should be able to guess. Oh, it stopped. And you'll also note that you will not be able to move it if this is flush. And so that's the thing about all of this logic we have to do on the bottoms. Let me go to spectators so you can get over there fast. If you use your middle mouse wheel, you can zoom. So over here, we have all of these extra layers, and the reason we have to have layers on our elevator is because these other layers are pushing those top pistons first. So if we come back up to our elevator up here, we're going to slow down right here, and we are going to see that this just needs to be pushed first. So if we prime it, is what I say. That's the word I use. So we have 13 blocks. So we're going to take one off. So we prime it. Boop. See, now it will go upward. And so now we can continue. And so this can be done ad infinitum, on forever. So we can actually go 11, 12, and then we can have another 12 blocks like this. I don't know what I'm doing. How many is that? 9? 10, 11, 12, question mark. And so now that will go up as well. So we come down like this, and we go, boop. And see, you can see that it's in stages. This is kind of how mining boards work when you go to the side and flying machines. If you want to make a big machine, you just need to know that it's broken up into stages. And so as soon as you have something to stop it, and one of the things that I do, and this is my preferred design for my elevator, is what you do is you don't just have it here on top to stop it, but you have it on the side. And that gives you the ability to have like a sticky piston that like comes in to the side and will hold on to it. Hang on, like that. But we need to power it somehow. So you would have some redstone logic that goes like this. And so that allows you to let go of it at your leisure. And so you can say, hey, let's disable it. I'll put a lever here. You can say let go so that we don't have any problems when we go down. And you go down using the other observer. That's all there is to it. So now it's pulling it in phases. So they can all be compressed together when you're going down. It's when you're up that you have a problem. And so as long as you can count to 12, you shouldn't have any problems. Now let's talk about honey blocks. Honey blocks works very similarly. Honey blocks, you can have up to 12, but they don't touch slime blocks. So slime blocks act like they're not even there. You might know that this is the same way with obsidian on the side. It's the same way with glazed terracotta. If I take some of this, these are the secret pushable obsidian, and they are my favorite block when it comes to redstone. My favorite redstone block is glazed terracotta. You heard that right. So it will actually just slip past them. There is a niche usage for them because you can push them but not pull them. And so because you're able to go like this, if you haven't ever tried this, try it. But push, pull. It's a one-way block, and so it's a system that can't be inverted. And you can still use them in redstone components. You're just going to have to use 2 pistons. I mean, there's no point using a sticky piston. Might as well just use a regular piston. But that's something to know. But honey blocks also work the same way, except for one key difference. And that key difference is that you cannot pass a redstone signal through them. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if we have a honey block here, it's like a glass block. It works like an air block or a glass block. And so let's take these two, a glass block and a regular block. And you'll notice that we can power these blocks, but we can't power the glass and the honey. And so if I were to put a piston right here, we will go boop and nothing happens. Up, up, nothing happens. And so these don't do anything. So you can think of a honey block as moving air, kind of. It's kind of an air block. And so that's what's different. And so you're limited in how much you can actually use it. So I did a tutorial on how to do a 2x2 elevator without using as much slime. And what you would have to do, let's get a bottom so that we don't grab the bottom floor. Actually, no, I'll show you what happens if you don't. So if I were to just try and, hang on. The weird thing is you get too close to a honey block, you can't place a block because they're less than a block wide. It doesn't look like it, but your hitbox is able to come into the honey block, and so I'm technically in the honey block zone, and so you can't place a block here. Bizarrely, you can place a honey block, but you can't place any other block. But anyway, so right here, we're going to have this, we're going to have this. And this won't work. Why won't this work? Well, what gives? Same thing we just talked about. So in order to fix that, there's actually a pretty simple solution. And if you're not going to use slime, because you don't have a slime farm, and it's much easier to use the 1 or 2 slime you got off of a witch or got lucky in a swamp with, than it is to go and farm 9, 18, 27, 36 different slime just to get your basic one going. It's going to be a pain in survival. You can do this. Now, isn't that neat? Because it's attached anyway, because the plan was to attach it anyway, you can just put it on directly. And so now, ta-da! And that's what I was talking about with, hey, you maybe want to put obsidian underneath. Good rule of thumb to put obsidian underneath, but when I was in my early days of doing videos, I would do that a lot and be like, oh, I forgot the obsidian. But anyway, so if you have any questions on elevators or ones you want to look at or talk about, we can. But I'm just going to go through some of them and talk about some of the design decisions and some of the struggles that I ran into because it was very educational. It's why I can do any elevator now. So one of the interesting things is that you can overload a piston. or an observer. And what do I mean by overloading? So overloading is it's a computer science and programming term. Well, you're getting rain. This world is set to be like a desert or something, so you don't actually get rain. But can we have clear weather so it's pretty? You know what? We'll make it prettier. Video settings. Everybody likes shaders, right? We don't always do them in a video, but here we are. Ooh, it's all glassy because it rained. Yeah, there's like water puddles after it rains, kind of. But where was I? Lost track. So overloading. So overloading, what you're going to do is you're going to have multiple uses for the same observer. And so what does this observer do right here? So this observer is going to power this block, and this one's going to be pushed up, but this one's going to be pushed down. So this is This is Schrodinger's observer. This is an observer that's in two places at the same exact time. And so you're having an observer that powers this one that's part of this main little machine, and then it also is functioning as the one for this back piston. And that can get really tricky when you get up top, because you have to make sure you hold on to this right here. What this is doing is, if we were to have the elevator up at the top and didn't have that, I might even break it on purpose just to show you. Let's go ahead and do that. So if I were to come up here, if we had the same delay on it as the other ones, it would push these blocks up, and then we would not be happy. It would break our machine, and we would go, what happened? And it's because it's doing two jobs. It's carrying an extra load. It's two things at once. If we didn't have this delay, and I didn't see how many ticks that was, what's going to happen is we are going to pull these back, and we're going to say go, and it's going to say okay. I'm going to push this down and start moving downward. And at that same exact instant, it's going to knock this upward, and you're like, wait a second, and you're going to be kind of annoyed. And so if I were to try and start this, now that I took off that extra delay, ooh, no, what happened? Exactly what we predicted, which is this kicked it upward as it was coming down, so it just kind of left it behind. And kind of worse yet, it's grabbed on right here, so it's a little stuck. So that's not ideal. And so that's actually a bit of a pain to fix. I'm not going to fix it on stream. It's not too bad. I know what to do. But it's boring. We're going to keep things interesting. But that's what makes the 5x5 probably the hardest one. That's the 4x4. The 5x5, I had to hit... You only had 8 blocks to work with, and I managed to find a way where 5 of those 8 blocks to work with were pistons. I think this one came to me in a dream. This was one of the weirdest builds because I fought with this one for weeks, and then I woke up from like half asleep in the middle of the night and wrote down like, oh, that's how you put the pistons on, and it worked. It was just like, it was the weirdest. I don't think I've ever had that happen before or since, but that solved the problem. And so these are going on to the back here, so we're putting them on like this, and we're overloading both of these, and then we're putting on one here. No, putting on a slime ball here, and they're just going like this and this. And so it's really heavy in overloading because you have to have these two, and so you make sure you have your tick delay, so you're going to have an extra repeater when you go up to the top. Where's the top one? Here we go. You see those extra repeaters? That's what those are for. So you have to make sure the timing. So what happens is you hold on to the top a little bit longer, so when it pushes down the first time and kicks this piston, it slams into the wall. Nothing happens because it's stuck. And then it comes down, and then you're golden. And so this is some of the basic principles, but these will only carry you so far, because right now what you're trying to do is you're trying to have exactly 12 blocks total. So you subtract however many you would put on top. So this is 12 because you've got 5 times 2 is 10, 11, 12. So just multiply however many you have. This is a running theme through my elevator videos. You saw a lot of them. So right here you've got 4. So you need, times 2 is 8, so you need to have 4 or more underneath. And so the 4x4 did that. But it starts getting really yucky, particularly in the odd ones when you start getting into more blocks, because then you have to start asking yourself how it is you're going to stop the thing. This uses a bunch of these. This one is one of my favorite designs. The 6x6 is really clean. It's a little bit higher, but it's like a jungle gym. I feel like I'm at a kid's museum. But you have these that are interlocking, and so they do 5, and then times 2 is 10, and we just have 2 blocks down underneath it. Now, could I squish these down a little bit more? Probably. I think I could take off a block and put it here on each one. And this would make this like one layer more compact. But this design right here where we have these two interlocking. And so you can see there's actually 4 on the green, and so I started thinking of them as yellow and green after you worked with them long enough. But you see, because there's 4 times 2 is 8, we've got to have 4 more to make 12. And that causes that one piston or whatever it is that's grabbing with one block here, push it over the edge to make it 13 so it stops it. And so that's how we can make something that looks truly flush. Let's go take a look real quick at some of the elevators I did for my intros. They're a lot of fun. That's a beautiful view. Might have a rainbow. If we don't. It's only if the sun's coming up. I have time disabled. But right here, you can see the same exact phenomenon going on. And we want it to look super flush. And so this is almost perfectly flush. You notice that we need to have a block we can pull, and you can't pull the glazed terracotta back like we just showed a minute ago. And so in here, we've got these blocks that kind of match, and so you can't really see them. But each of those is grabbing onto something, and then we grab these over here. And there's 12 of them right here because we have a lot more things to grab. This is the 7x7, right? And so if we come over here and look at it, we've got a lot more of these pieces to deal with. The other sizes are a bit of a challenge, honestly. They kind of get tricky. You start having to look at them. So I actually had a preview like this on some of the videos that's a little bit easier to see how I figured them out. The issue is you can't have one that's isolated in the middle. If you have one that's isolated in the middle, you're not going to be able to reach it to stop it. And so you're going to have to put something on top of it. I'm actually working on a bigger elevator. I'll show you in a minute if you're interested. And I will show you how you can actually do that. If you allow yourself to put something on top of it to stop it, and then you don't have to suffocate yourself. You don't have to have it hit a wall. You can put something like, I don't know, and there's a lot of blocks that are considered air blocks that are not going to hurt you. And so you could have something like this, or let's say we did those 4, and so this would stop it from going up. So we can have a ceiling that goes like that, and actually, because that perfectly hits all of them, we could do that. And so then it comes up to this point and stops. If you wanted to do that, you could, and it would, not only that, it would prevent you from having to count them out to 12, so it would make it considerably easier. But if you want to stop it on the side, you're limited up to 12 by 12, because if you have 6 blocks in a row, the blocks on top are going to add up to 12, so you don't have any more wiggle room. And so that's why my biggest elevator was this one right here, which is the 12 by 12. And so this one's enormous. This was the ultimate final boss for me because this was my ultimate goal. Once I had started going and I had done bigger and bigger ones, my goal was to someday be able to do a 12 by 12, and here we are. And you can see how there's not really a pattern. It's literally just 6 blocks in a row. I don't know if you can tell what I based the design of my intro on. This is actually based off of the interior of Ganon's castle on Ocarina of Time. So this is actually, if you ever played that boss battle with Ganon, and so you come up here. The only thing it's missing is like an organ piano. Got the red carpet. But I did these windows inspired by that. If you actually go look at some of the art in the actual layout, it does look a little bit more like it than you'd think, but it's just not part of it, at least for me, that you remember very well from the game. We don't have night vision on, do we? We don't. It's dark in here. Effect, give me night. What is it? Oh, seconds. And then no amplifier. No particles. There we go. But yeah, so I think I had it off for looking at the lighting in here earlier, but this is the 11 by 11, and very similar thing. But you'll notice that pattern where the ones that are odd are a bit harder to figure out. Let me see if the 9 by 9 was worse than the 7. It took me quite some time to figure out the 7. So right here we have this is our 10 by 10. And you can see that it's literally just a smaller not quite a smaller version of the 12 by 12. I developed this. This is probably my favorite mechanism for moving more things. Right here, if you're trying to move as many blocks as possible at a time, I found an optimization point where one piston can push 6 pistons at a time. And what you do is you find a way to grab it, but ultimately what you're doing is you're coming, let me come up here actually. Hang on. But what you're doing is you're doing a T, because you can only have 12 blocks, and then you need to have as many pistons as possible. And you can actually, did I just give up my observer? You can actually put an observer facing, right, wrong way, like this. And so that is my favorite little contraption. And so if you could chain these together, you can have one piston pushes 6, that push 6, that push 6. So you could do some nutty stuff. I haven't used it much since then, but that was probably my favorite. Anyway, I wanted to see if the 9x9 was more complicated. Should we tear up the top? I'm thinking about it. Let's tear up the top. It's a simple pattern. See, if I wasn't caring about it, if I was just tearing the whole thing apart, what I would actually do is I would actually use my OK Boomer side. My OK Boomer sign is my way to getting rid of large things fast. So it looks like the 9x9 wasn't too bad. We did the same pattern that we did for the bigger ones. I do remember, though, that having to figure out these clasps and funny shapes, it was quite the pain. Yeah, looking in hindsight, the 7 was the worst, by far. Are there any other shapes you guys want to see? We've got, right here, we've got a, the donut. The donut is, it's been the most requested for help because some people who are a little bit newer to Redstone have been working on it, and I'll be honest, I did this one after the 12 by 12, so this is not, I don't want to say it's not for the faint of the heart, I don't want to say you can't do it, but it was, I was using all of the skills I had built up to that point to do it, and so it's not completely obvious. We just put this on the side in order to come up a layer. You can tell that I like my other design, I just tried to expand it. Ultimately, what I had to do is figure out how to fit the pistons so that one hit each of these. Generally, when you're trying to design an elevator, it's a lot easier. If you're doing a small one, you're kind of limited to where you can put the pistons, but if you're doing a bigger one, you kind of want to say, I want to design an elevator that's shaped like this. And so then you say, okay, well, where should my pistons go? Well, you're going to have one underneath each one. So you can put them in a lot of places, but you're going to be limited in what you can do. Let's actually make this as a design. It's going to be we're going to call this the T elevator. But what I would do if I were to build an elevator from scratch is I would come and put something like this down and say, all right, that's what we want. Now how are we going to power those? So we can come in and put an observer here and here. That will give us at least our basic functionality. Come on. There we go. So now when we move this up and down, it's going to push those up and down. And so if I were to go, boop, it'll push those up, and it'll continue to go up until it goes down. A very important tip that I don't always share is that it's very difficult to fix and debug things if you've got the top on. So generally you want to wait to put the top on as long as you possibly can. To the point that when you're actually building the top, and I think I did this in some videos, it's often a smart idea to look at where your elevator is going to be and get some obsidian. You're going to take that obsidian and you're going to place it across the top like this just to hold it down. And if you didn't put the top on, it's not going to be stopped by these blocks that are supposed to stick out. So you'd have to put something in as a obsidian top to keep it from going too far while you're working on it. But once you get it perfect and you know your counts right, then you should be totally cool to put that in. So let's go ahead and try and finish a build here and see if we can invent, as it were, our own elevator. Now, what's wrong with this? Do you see a problem? Let me show you. So there's a problem here. If you don't see it, you'll see it in a second. Let's take a button and let's push these up. And I'm actually going to break this real quick so that you can see it. We don't want to pull that down. So if this tries to go up and down, oh, it doesn't actually do it. Normally, I think the pistons on top are preventing it from being a problem, but you will get some weird behavior. You are going to get something weird going on. And so you don't want to put that right here. Are there other blocks to stop it other than obsidian? Yes. So tile entities. A tile entity is anything that can carry an item. The way vanilla Minecraft was originally coded, or Java Minecraft, I mean, this isn't necessarily true in Bedrock, but you can't push and pull these. So a block that has an inventory, like a chest, generally acts as obsidian too. And so you can actually come in and go push, and it will not push. Because these are. So one of the things that people used to do back before we had glazed terracotta is they would go and they put your elevator shafts. You'll see YouTube videos full of these to this day from the old days. But they'll have like the back of the interior of their elevator will look like this because they've spent a bunch of resources. And they did this back as early as before droppers were even added. I can remember. So people used to have, this was their flush interior. They didn't want to collect some obsidian, and they wanted gray instead of black. And so you can use these to stop blocks and to act as obsidian. Other blocks that work, chests work. Obviously ender chests, which are really interesting for being smaller. You can kind of see around them a little bit more. You get cracks you can peer through. You'd be surprised. There are tools for that. Being smaller also changes the way items drifting in water hit them when they change direction. So they're really popular as a redstone component for moving items around. There's a lot of weird esoterica in redstone, and item movement is some of the weirdest, where it's like, I want it to move this many pixels, and so I'm going to have water that flows this way. I'm going to have a cake that has 2 pieces eaten, and it's hilarious. Oh, I love it. And it'll be skating on ice that doesn't stop when it hits the cake, and it's just, yeah. So that's something you can do if you don't want to use obsidian. Just use, the cheapest is probably going to be droppers because they don't require bows. If you were to use a dispenser, you're going to have a bow for each one, and that can get really costly. But this just takes 7 cobblestone and 1 redstone, and so they're pretty cheap to mass produce. So if you don't want to go out and farm a whole bunch of obsidian, just use some droppers. They'll do the same job. I just don't care for how they look. I consider them functional, and so I don't bother with them. So right here, we're going to finish this because I want to finish it. We're going to put a block here, just like we were normally building an elevator. And we are going to put one here. And what I want to do is I want to stop that connection from happening. And so what we're going to do is we are going to put a block in the way so that it's segregated. So now we have this one and this one. And so that should, in theory, work. And so that should give us what we need. Let me get this out of the way. We're having fun down here. And watch this. Please work. I hate being wrong and looking dumb. Oh, we didn't put our observers on. Ha 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 ha. And we didn't put obsidian down there, so it's going to pull those blocks up too. That's okay. So let's put our... Now, you got to be careful, because they can be budded. I would honestly prefer to do it like this. And so I think we can do it like that. Remember, how many blocks do we have? We have these 4, so we have 8 total we can put on. So if I were to put 4 on like this, I could put 2 pistons like this, and I could put an observer on either side if I wanted, and that would be 7 and 8. So those are 8 blocks total, so we're just at the edge. All right, let's see. So now if we were to go up... Hello. I'll answer questions in the chat, but there's such a delay. It's going to be hard to kind of wait. Even if I answered the moment you typed, it's going to be like 15 seconds. And so I'm going to keep an eye on it, but we're kind of... Our fun is ruined because of that. So I think this should stop when we go up there. Let's find out. So like I said, we forgot to put obsidian in. And so now there's too many blocks to push. And so ultimately, we could make this our top. So let's say we wanted to put something around it. I don't know. We had pink glazed terracotta right here. So if we wanted to have a funny shaped elevator, we could do that. and I'm an idiot, because no, actually, you would need to do like that. And so we have, remember, we have the 6, and so we're going to have 12 blocks total. And so let's pick eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Hay bales, because why not? Who doesn't like pale yellow sand? So now it should come down. Watch this. Boop, boop, bump. And now we can, what we would do if we were trying to finish this elevator is we'd have a button that comes over here, and we would just reach under and have a piston just push. Let's do that, actually. And so we can just say hello like this. And so now, if I have a button, I can go, hi. And see, now we've got our elevator. It's flush. So you want to have a block that you can't pull here. You can have any block you want up here. I always forget that about the top. That's an important thing to know. Because you can do anything you want. Because what we're going to do is we're going to stop it. See, it's the blocks that touch the slime that you have to be careful about. So now we just need to have 2 blocks that stop it. So because we've got exactly 12 blocks here, we could put literally anything right here, and those are going to be our blocks that stop it. If you want to be more discreet and having it flush, what you want to do is you want to find a block that looks the same as your obsidian or your tile block. If we were using droppers, we could use stone, but let's search for a pink block that looks the same. Let's do some pink wool. So now what's going to happen is it's going to get caught on those right here, and it'll stop. So let's do that. Let's go up. So we need to have our 2-stage. And so this is actually important. We have to touch these at the same exact time. The reason is, if we do that, it's going to get stuck. You see how it can't pull that down now? Because they came up at different times, and so now these are grabbing onto those. Now, I've had a little bit of experience, so I can tell you that you can still push the ones that are not pushed up. Let's do this, though. Let's put our pistons, well, it's ready to, it's primed to go upward, so let's go ahead and make it go upward. And then after that, we're going to bring it back down, and we will set this up. And so now we have an elevator we just made up. I'm inventing this as we go. This wasn't planned for the stream, and so I just want you guys to know that anybody can do these elevators. See how that stopped perfectly? It's because it grabbed on right here. And so what we've got to do is when we want to go down, we're going to take some sticky pistons, and we're going to pull on those. And so let's pull on them like so. And that's going to pull away, and we want to have these powered until they're not. And so easiest way to do this, honestly, targets, because it makes your redstone point into the block. And you want to invert it so that it's already using a redstone torch. So now what we can do is we can simultaneously say, hey, this is already going to connect, see? And we're just going to go push and say we want it to go down. So what we will do is we will go, give me a piston. And this is why it's actually much easier if you have this up against the edge of your elevator. If you don't, you're going to have some trouble, but it's much easier like this. So now what we can do is we can go like that, and when this fires, it's going to pull those back. And what we'll do is we will pull that back, and then let's go ahead and just connect it this way. It's easier that way, and honestly. So we kind of want to wait a second, but you don't have to wait very long. I bet you don't have to wait hardly at all. Yep, it's working. And so it moves those out of the way so that it can go down. So that now the top's literally done. That's all there is to it. And so instead of putting a button here, you could just run redstone dust up to your favorite button location. You could put one up here. Obviously, that's normally where you put it, is by your elevator. You want to be standing on your elevator when you push the button. I don't want to spend too much time doing this. I'm trying to keep things interesting. I'm new to streaming, and so it's very easy to get boring. And if you want to be a good streamer, you do stuff people want to see. Don't blather and act like you're self-important. So let's talk about the bottom. So remember I said we have to do things in phases? That's where it gets really yucky. And this is going to be a fairly easy one, but you literally just have to wait 3 ticks for it to push. And so what we're going to do, by the way, side note, you see how I can tell that this is a slime block? Mystic kind of smells. It smells good. You've seen that, you know that SpongeBob episode. So, side note, the Hermit Crafters have a resource pack. I forget what it's called. I just know Zazuma is closely related to it. There's a pack that I talk about, I'm a big fan of, that adds small enhancements, like these lighting up and the faces moving when you put things on them. But the key thing is these. Oh, my audio's breaking. The key thing is that you can see sticky pistons from the side. I cannot emphasize enough when you're learning redstone how nice it is to be able to tell two pistons apart from the side. Oh my gosh, I don't know how people live without that. I can't go back after it. It was always a pain in my earlier days of Minecraft. Like, is that a sticky piston or piston? I can't remember. And getting it wrong when you're learning to build stuff is the worst. Or when someone's doing a tutorial on YouTube and you can't tell which one it is, like, oh, come on. So anyway, you want to wait 3 ticks. 3 ticks is the trick. So what we're going to do is we're going to rig this up so that, and you can actually put stuff underneath here really close because the elevator's never going to come down here. If you're on the bottom, you can do whatever you want. So you can be guilt-free about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pistons and I'm going to put some blocks right here, like this. And we're just going to trigger them, wait 3 ticks, and then we're going to go. And so what we'll do is we'll set a 3-tick delay between there and we're going to want to hit the bottom one. And so right now, because it's down, nothing will happen because it's jammed. And you can use that to your advantage. See, I can touch it and it's not going to go anywhere because there's a 3-tick. Or because there's more than 12 blocks that it's trying to push. Ooh, you can tell I'm getting a little sleepy and dry-throated. My voice is breaking up. All right. So, like that. Da, 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 da. So now watch this. That should be it. You generally want to count and make sure you're not getting close to your 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But with practice, you can kind of ballpark it. You know if you're hitting 13, 14, you're like, I need to make sure that's going to reach all the way. Plus, if you're in the middle, you don't have to worry. So it's half the distance. And so if I were trying to power the whole thing from here, would it work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That would work. But if I were to put it here, then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you might have noticed on some of my bigger builds, I don't know how much I talked about this at the time doing them. That's why we're doing this in the middle, is because it cuts the distance in half so you don't have to put a bunch of repeaters. Because if I were to put the power here, we'd need to put like 2 or 3 repeaters here because we're going to need a repeater here, we're going to need a repeater here, and it gets worse the bigger you get. But that's something to know. So let's go ahead and test it. Oh, look at that. We just invented an elevator in front of people live, and we'll pretend there were no problems whatsoever. When you're testing, fun fact, because this is all you got to do, instead of using that observer, you can just do that. Only I forgot to disconnect it. So you could put a lever here that disconnects it permanently when you're testing. This is I try not to blab on in videos, which is why, because my retention isn't all that great on some of them. But that's a thing you can do. So you can kind of force this to be in a different state. And so that gives you the ability to hold these open. That might be a problem, though. Let's be careful. What did I do? I did a bad thing. Don't know what I did, but it's going to be okay. You generally don't meddle with your redstone when your elevator's arriving. Yeah, that could have consequences. There could be ramifications. That's kind of what happened. There's not an explanation for it. It just, the timing was perfect. And sometimes it just stops like that, but sometimes you end up causing a train wreck. You see how that got stuck because we were pulling this back? See, now I would have to fix the whole thing. Isn't that ugly? And so this is why you want to be very careful when you're actually testing these, whether these are on or off. So I'm actually going to leave these off, and we're just going to go back down again. So it was grabbing onto those blocks, and now it's not grabbing onto anything. So it could go up too, so make sure you don't hit the wrong one. Hit this one, we're going to wave goodbye to it. In fact, you know what? It's funny, let's do it. If I were to push this one up, and then push this one up. And I did this on a few of mine earlier on, but it's actually, I did some thumbnails where I wanted to have the elevator standalone, and so you can actually just go, bye forever. And we could go up there and get it and stop it, but like that's just gonna go, bye. What is the biggest platform size you can get with elevators? Ooh boy, do I have something for you. For those who stuck around this long, I have something for you. So, if you were been here from the beginning, I showed you that the soft limitation is right here with 12 by 12. And the reason is you don't have a way to stop it on the side, and because if you have more than 6 blocks, because having 6 blocks here, you're gonna have 6 on top, and that makes 12, which means you don't have any more wiggle room, which means you can't even have anything connecting to these. These have to be flat on the pistons, which makes them much harder to place, and that's part of the reason I invented this design. So I have something really exciting that's in the works. Somebody knows about it, but I am doing a giant 43 by 43 circular elevator. I don't think there's a limit on the size of elevators you can get if you're willing to break this rule and just put something on top. Earlier I was talking over on the 7x7, I believe it was, where I put some, yeah, I put these down and showed that you can kind of put a block that overwhelms it on each one. So if this went up to your ceiling and then you just had this cut off, you could stop it. I'm going to do something like that for this one, but let me jump out of this world and jump into another world, and I will show you what I have planned. So right here, I have, let me actually duplicate this file. So let me go, I'm going to hit F11. Let's hope it doesn't mess up my stream. I'm going to clone this world because this is a backup of the world that we want to have some fun in. And because I can only do it once because it's not finished yet. So let me come up and I'm going to go into my worlds. I'm going to open the saves. I'm going to take that one, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to paste it. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to put the word live in the file name so that you can see it. And it's done. And so now when I leave this and come back, you'll see that we've got a live world. So watch this. This is fun. I'm excited for this. All right. Where are we? We are over here. Look at the size of this absolute unit. Somebody asked for a circular 43 by 43 elevator, and I was like, are you nuts? No, I'm nuts. Let's do this. And so there isn't a limit. And the reason why I went to make a backup world is because right now I don't have the logic down on the bottom to make it go up yet. So I can only make it go down, but I do want to show you live that it does actually work. Are you ready? We're going to hit, not this one, but this one. And this is going to pull these. She's going to pull that one and this one and these two, which is going to pull each of these layers. They're a little confusing, but it gets a little bit more straightforward the higher up you get, even though there's more. The pattern starts to regulate. And so after this layer, we're going to have these section units and that grab these clusters of 3. And so, yes way, watch this. You ready? We only get to do it once, which is why I'm going to kind of hold off a second. But let's go and do it now. So I'm going to pull this whole thing down to the ground, and the problem is it moves so fast that I can't even get up there in time. I'm going to go spectator, I'm going to slide up right away. 1, 2, 3. Look at this thing. It does actually move down perfectly. I mean, it looks like it's off because of the shadow, but we're just because we have shaders on. But it does slide all the way down. And so it will lag like nobody's business, but it does actually pull all at the same time. And so I'm going to be working on a design to stop it on top and below. Just haven't had time to get onto it yet, but the answer, the hard answer to what's the biggest platform size you can get with elevators, the hard answer is how big do you want to go? The hard answer is how big do you want to go? So now we're in my other world. So this is kind of part 2 of the stream. So I've got a lot of projects and working. I just finished recording a block by block tutorial for Etho's latest video. Spoiler is right over there somewhere. But right, oh no, we're in a clone of the world, so it's not in here. Ooh, well, it's a surprise then. I'm going to show you my infinity elevator. because it's hilarious. So I made an elevator that can be infinitely long as it's one wide. So it's hilarious. But what it does, and it took me a while to design it. I think my proof of concept also works. So what you need to do is have these individual units. Let me find them. Here we are up here. I'm going to go back to spectator so we move faster. So right here, we've got an attach arm. We've got this piston elevator right here. And what this does is it's designed to be one wide on purpose. And then we take a narrow arm that's one wide. And then we take a section that can be copied and pasted. It's really tricky to get this right. It doesn't work with honey, unfortunately. I'm so close to figuring out how to make this go on the other axis where we can make an infinity by infinity elevator. How hilarious would that be? But in the meantime, I've got a system where you put a row underneath, and what we're going to do is we're going to bump each of them in order. So it doesn't do it in sync, but it's designed so that they don't stick to each other, despite the fact that they're not going at the same time. So what we're doing is we're breaking the, I'm a ghost. We're breaking the rule that they have to go at the same time. And by breaking that rule that they have to go at the same time, then the limits are off. There are no limits anymore. And so if you can actually keep them from sticking to each other, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and I'm going to launch it. And the problem is the only limitations, it would take an infinite amount of time to go up and an infinite amount of time to go down. And you'd have to travel an infinite distance to the other side to be able to push the button. Do, 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 do. All right. So, in fact, just to make sure we don't have any problems, I'm going to turn up my render chunks to 12. Hopefully that doesn't lag us too much, but we're going to need to have all of the chunks loaded. You're literally only limited by chunk distance, and so we can just kind of talk and examine it while it works, but if I push this button, it's going to hit this one and push it up, and then hit this one and push it up, and then it's going to end up in a loop. So ready? Boom, 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 boom. It is the wildest thing. Now, the fact that I can't use honey blocks on other blocks, the fact that I can't use, like, falling sand on some of the blocks, meaning sand but also powdered concrete, is actually a major downside, but we can use our top to fix the downsides. The downside is it leaves these blocks directly over the pistons pushed up, but it kind of has an oddly satisfying... I know, isn't that a whoa moment? Isn't that like a whoa? Yeah. I've actually had this break many times because what happens is, see that one's lagging? It's not rendering. It just has to do with the shaders, and that chunk is not updating. But it actually has a problem, and you'll see it. You ready? Look for the problem. What's going to happen? It's going to come up here and... oh no, it messed up. So what I do is you just up at the top, you run essentially a fix down the line and just pop each one so it fixes. Look, here it comes. You ready? Pop 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 pop. And so when I meant you had to go an infinite distance, that's the thing about infinities, is they tend to have other infinities involved with them. But the infinity elevator, in order to go down, has to have one button at each infinity. So the down button is going to be over here. But yeah, this will work too. So yeah, this is some of my experiments in pushing the limits of what's possible. I have a button in here somewhere. I don't want to mess this up, so I want to push the button. Here it is. And so what we do is when we trigger that, it just goes down. I want to end up towards the middle just for safety's sake. It is very satisfying. I will confess that I probably wasted a few hours playing with this after I invented it. I think it's longer than it originally was. I think I like added another third of it to the length because it was just like, look at this, look at this. It's so much fun. But like, it's weird too because there's like this climb and jump up. It is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so there's the long answer. What's the biggest size you can get with elevators? How big do you want to get? Because at least on one dimension, I can get infinity big. And we did the 43 by 43, and then the sane size is 12 by 12, where you can grab it on the sides. But yeah, it's really, you're only limited by your cleverness. There's a lot of stuff that people haven't done over the years. Having playing Minecraft as long as a lot of these famous Redstoners and YouTubers, I've been wanting to try and do some more of my own stuff, and these are some of my own inventions. I've just never been able to show off, and I've never been able to like teach things, and we're kind of in a weird era for Minecraft where some of the veterans still kind of do it, but they become a bit more casual, and the younger players, a lot of them are playing on Bedrock, and so the greatness of Redstone on Java is really underappreciated. There's a lot of stuff you can't do. I talked to somebody about this. This is my insane asylum. I have to stay away from here because I'll get stuck here. These are almost functional quad piston extenders. I've got a whole bunch of, I could talk all day about what's in here, but I am actually working on an AI that I'm going to program an AI to fix this for me. I'm going to make an AI say, hey, you see that block right there? Pull that down. And because there's so many different combinations of blocks, but there's only like 5 or 6 to choose from, honestly, and with accompanying directions. So there's like, if I were to just place blocks randomly to try and fix it, there's only like, what, 10,000 different combinations or something. And so I'm going to try and do an AI where I just say, hey, my thing's almost working, fix it for me. And so I might become the first Redstone inventor who just makes an AI invent things and says, hey, I invented that thing that nobody could figure out. I solved that problem no one could solve. And so I'm looking forward to that, because right now, I will show it to you, but this is the best, arguably the best design right now for quad piston extenders. Stream's going good. It's right. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. But this guy's a genius. I'm going to credit him if I ever do a video on it and to kind of talk about it. But the logic is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have to turn them off in this order. You have to go 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. And so if I turn it off, it's going to go 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. Yeah. Sorry, it's the other way. It's 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, or 4, 3, 4. And so it's kind of like a pyramid. Bump, 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 bump. If you count them the other way, if you count this one as 4, then yeah, it's 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And so that's the logic you have to do them in. And I've gotten 3/4 of the way. It's those last ones I can't figure out, but it completely changes what you have to do with everything else. And so it's been really frustrating, but I've been working on that. That's a project that's coming down the pike. I really want to push that hard on all social media if I do solve it, because it's one of those, hey, I solved the thing. Some of my other inventions in pseudo elevator land are this right here. This is a trap door, and so this I think is as fast as it can possibly go tick-wise, and I have it set up so that you should be able to ensnare anybody. So let's say we, it'd be fun. So that's 15 ticks. It's actually, the designs I came up with were really picky for how long your ticks were. And so I would need to have a pulse extender, but what would be really fun is to have a skulk sensor. And so someone's just walking along and it just opens up. Because the thing is, I have it where your no amount of reflexes are enough. And so if you're, can I reach it from here? I can't. But if you're on top of it, it's just going to go, and that's it for you. Like, you'll go, wait, and you're just in the middle of it. Because the thing is, if you just make a block move, like a pro, like, PvPer might be able to dodge. Oh, I did make one. Oh, this is just a proof of concept. This was one of my first drafts. But yeah, a PvPer on like a 1x1 is going to go, oh, crap, and they're going to avoid it. But if you're in the middle of a 4x4, that's it for you. They've got you. Like, if you made it, this is a surefire trap where you can jump, but let me go to survival. Ooh, let's not do it in midair. If I go to survival, I'm gonna die. I'll die. You can go, what? And that's it. There's not enough time to react, and so that and so with a 4x4, it's finally big enough. My first one was a 2x2, but I wanted to go bigger. I might be able to go bigger on those, but no one really looks for them. They don't have a lot of searchability in YouTube. Nobody really cares. But that's one of the things I've got going on. Other elevators, that kind of, it's 6 o'clock. That kind of wraps up what I wanted to cover on how to do your own elevator. If there's any questions, we can kind of go over some things. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the stuff I've done on the channel that maybe people haven't seen, and then talk a little bit about what future plans are, because I've got a lot of stuff planned. I'm in a position financially, partly because I'm a little bit older, where I could run a bunch of SMPs and a bunch of servers. I really want to do like some mini game challenges. The community around mini games has gotten a little bit stale. I think some of the popularity of some like the Hypixel games is kind of, people kind of, they get used to the games that exist. And I've got a couple ideas for some new mini games that no one's really done yet. Here's a proof of concept that got abandoned by Seth Bling years ago, and it is a MOBA. So I don't quite have it working yet, but essentially think of this as one of the lanes in League of Legends. And so when I trigger the right command block over here, it's going to create 2 teams of zombies that are heading down towards the other side and will stop to fight each other. And they're the minions from League of Legends. And so if I can get the kinks worked out in that, you have to do some really hacky things to make them hostile to each other. But if I can get that cleared up, I could actually build like League of Legends in Minecraft. How fun would that be to be a champion and you could do custom enchantments for different items that you can buy? That would be really neat and interesting. It's not even that if things aren't tried and tested, people aren't very interested. It's literally people don't look for things on YouTube that they don't think exist. See, that's the thing with being an inventor. I've always been an inventor. I want to start a company someday. I've got a couple software ideas for platforms, websites, other tools that would really make people's lives easier. But I've got to get into the marketing space. And so that's partly why I want to get into YouTube, because I'm learning what people like and what they don't like, and how you essentially say, hey, here's your problem I'm here to solve. Because if you don't do that, nobody watches your video. You can do really, really high budget stuff, and what you get is some comments that are like, dude, you're gonna be famous someday. Dude, that's amazing. And they're so kind. But it's amazing. Why don't people are like, why don't you have any subscribers? It's because nobody cares. That's the thing that sucks, is when you invent things, the world is full of inventions. There's something you learn as you get older. The world is full of inventions that nobody cares about that change the world. I'll tell you one that I'm a big fan of: 3D printing. 3D printing is cool. I 3D print stuff all the time. If I ever get big on YouTube and I start doing a merch store, I will custom invent some things for us to have to sell. I'm not going to be selling T-shirts and mugs. No, I'm going to be selling like plastic fidgets and other toys. Maybe I can probably even print a model of your Minecraft skin. Wouldn't that be fun? I could sell you a little like figurine of your Minecraft skin if you want it. Obviously in a store would be mine, but I don't think about it much. Vanity projects and all that. It's me. But I would probably be able to 3D print enough to be able to have everybody have their own Minecraft skin as a figurine. That would be awesome. We could do some of the popular YouTubers. I would probably want to get permission before I did that. But there's so much you can do with 3D printing. It's an invention that would change the world. If Apple made a 3D printer, every house would have one. But because people are afraid of it and they're just like, ooh, yeah, the mugs and t-shirts is kind of eh. I'll be honest, I do want to do t-shirt content, but I have very high standards. Very high standards. And so there's like 99% of the t-shirts out there are garbage. But I want to be able, if I'm going to do like that kind of content, it's going to be stuff that nobody's ever done before. It's going to be something that you can't get anywhere else. And not just because it's an exclusivity thing, but because that's what I do here. I invent things. I like to try and make things I didn't think were possible. And so that's going to be kind of that's a running philosophy for the channel, but it's going to be true if I do expand to anyway. So for example, one of the things I was going to mention during the stream anyway, because I want to kind of talk today about channel stuff, I'm going to want to do, yeah, 3D printers are getting cheaper. I have an Ender 3 Pro that was my first printer I got for $300. Micro Center is selling one, if you're a new customer, for $99. It's ridiculous. You could buy 3 of them for a cost of a Nintendo Switch. And it can change your household where you can fix things that break and so forth. You can print replacement parts for things. I've already done that to a great effect. Print custom like power covers and other things for computers. But people just don't realize what the potential is, or they're afraid of it. And one of the complicating factors is they don't only realize how many models are out there to 3D print already, but there's also very few people who are educated in like Blender and modeling tools. And so that's something that we're going to have to if I get big, that's gonna be my shtick. Is like 3D printing is awesome. I used to have a blog and I did some I did some like articles on how to get into 3D printing if you're new to it. I'm not gonna link them here for now, but if it comes up again, if people are interested, maybe. But yeah, this is one of my first inventions when I was younger. This is a classic one. So what this does is it's literally just a bunch of, this is another video that didn't get any views. And what we do is we push these down, and so they stop as soon as there's 12 of them. And then these push and stop as soon as there are 12 of them. And it results in a self-healing sleep spleef arena. And I think it's pretty cool, personally. But if I were to turn it on, which I don't even know if I can now because I think oh, I can. I think you have to push these out of the way first. I hear motion. Something's happening. This side is done. What about this side? What about this side? There it goes. It's working. And so it's a self-healing one. And so you can sit here and go, and it will actually fill itself back in. This was one of my favorite little things. It's a self-healing. But yeah, I've done a number of. This is one of my earlier inventions. But I've got so many different contraptions lying around. I need to have like a way to toggle these. I might later set a command block where I can flip it and it will turn all of these levers by itself. You can place a lever in a certain state in a certain block. And so I can literally just do 4 set blocks. So you smack a command block and it goes and flips all those levers for you. But yeah, this is one of my other early inventions right here. This is another video that didn't get any views. Watch, split, 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 split. And so what happens is it'll wipe away garbage. And back in the day, more blocks would break. And so this was an easy way to clean up your redstone mess. You can also use this to great effect when you're doing flower farms, but these days just running a bunch of pistons from the side is not that big a deal. But I used to have a laboratory. I made kind of a simulated one somewhere in this world. But I used to have a lab that that looked like this, and give or take. Did I put it in this world? No, I think it's in the other world. But this was me remembering how to do it. I may have even done the time lapse in here based on the colors of these. I was talking about the different ones and what their purpose is. But being able to split water a bunch of times was a cool trick I would do back in the day. But yeah, these are kind of some of my humble beginnings. It's simple, but it gets the job done. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any favorite memories from the early days of Minecraft if you played it for longer. I actually vaguely remember back before we even had repeaters. And those were the craziest days in Alpha because they were doing this where you would have an entire computer, but they didn't have repeaters to go to more than 15 blocks. And so what they were doing was they were literally taking redstone dust. And so when it ran out, what they were doing is they were double inverting it. So we would go like this, and you would immediately, I'm trying to remember what their design was, because they had a really compact design. It was like this, I want to say. And so you had like that-ish. And so what happened was, this is your repeater. And so it can have a signal strength of more than 15 that way, because it was just two torches together. And this is what we did back in my day. Back in my day. In the year of our Lord 2011. Well, that was like 09, 010, but made an awesome base and closed your iPad. Oh gosh. Yeah, save file corruption is one of the worst like bugs in any software system. As somebody who works with things like file corruption and file saves, oh my gosh, yeah, 5-year-olds, like that's so rough. I would argue that it probably hurts even more as you get older. Like whereas it's the ability to build things again. Someday I'll go through and collect, because I think I have most Minecraft worlds backed up within files from old computers that moved from computer to computer through most of my life. I might be able to open up my snow castle. This was not too long after pistons were added, I believe, and I think I had a gate that opened and closed that was made out of gravel. But I had this giant snow fortress. It was this big pillar, and I was so proud of it in my survival world. And it was wild. But that was good times. Those early memories of like what it used to like. People are so used to some of the new blocks, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this Redstone Masterclass. So Redstone Masterclass is so I can teach some of these concepts, because people get overwhelmed. They don't know how to get into Redstone, and they don't feel like they can do it. And it's because when we were learning how to do it, this is what you had when the first time Redstone was released. You had this. You literally had dust would break when you walked on it. You had torch, and you had pressure plate. And door, I guess, if you count that. So that's what, 5 blocks? You had button, let me think, button, and back then, you only had, I think wooden and stone button were the same. I'm not sure. I'm rusty. But back in the day, buttons only went on the side of a block. Like button on the bottom or top of the block, I still forget you can do that. I still forget you can put droppers and dispensers up and down half the time. But like that's all you had was that, a pressure plate, and a door. I think the oak pressure plate didn't even have items react to it until one of the later updates where they added the gold and silver ones, which that's a video that I should probably do. That's going to require some research, but one of the most underused blocks, because it's kind of useless-ish, is the weighted pressure plates that measure how much stuff is dropped on them. And so you drop one down. This lighting is killing me. We're turning the shaders off. Yeah, and so this will tell you how many items you have, give or take. And the tragic thing is when they started making items combine, you can see them combine like that. So you watch, if you watch again, 1, 2, 1, where they combined into one entity. And so it literally measures only entities in terms of how many things don't combine. So it tells you how many unique blocks you have. And then I believe the iron one does the same thing, but for much larger amounts of items or entities. And so they're not super useful anymore. So that all of those only provides a signal strength of 1. You have to have a lot more. But when they added these updates, it was in the I don't want to say it wasn't the earliest days. It was a little bit later on. That's when they added the ability for pressure plates to work. But yeah, back in the day, it was literally just these. And I guess technically the one thing that predates Redstone is rails. And that so I did a unit 0 in my Redstone Masterclass, and it covers things that existed before Redstone. And so you can understand a little bit of how rails work. So like, why does this go this way? If it has to choose, it's always going to go that way. And why is that? And it's the Southwest rule. And so I'm not going to talk about it right now because it's easy to get confused. I don't want to give you bad information, but I went through it in detail there. And understanding that can be the secret to making much better rail systems and roller coasters. But yeah, so anyway, that's one of the big reasons why I'm such a big fan of trying to teach Redstone the way I'm teaching it. I want to start with what did we have in the early days, and you just only think about those and learn the blocks in the order we learn them. Because you have to remember that Minecraft comes out with new things, and those who know everything about Minecraft learn those new things. And so it's not too bad if you play Minecraft like an alpha and don't have anything, and then they add something, and then they add something, and they add something, and 10 years go by and you're the biggest expert, and everyone's like, how do you learn this? It's so complicated. It's not complicated. You just don't know where to start, and you get overwhelmed because possibilities. One of the things I used to do as a kid to make beautiful things with Legos and Kinects and other building toys, I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, I'm that kind of nerd, is I would limit myself to only certain kinds of pieces. And that's kind of what's happening with some of the elevator logic, which is why I'm able to invent such cool things. But if you want a big secret into how to invent things, what you need to do is limit yourself. If you limit yourself, you can get really crazy. And so let's say, for example, you wanted to do unique artwork and you had a really nice sketch pad, but you're not allowed to use paint or any traditional pens or pencils. You could do some really interesting art. And you could do stuff that people would probably go crazy for on the internet if you're an artist. And so, for example, a lot of stones and dirt from outside, as well as metallic soft metals. So paper clips and aluminum foil, generally speaking, will leave residue on paper, and so you should be able to scratch the paper with some of them, and that will actually leave a gray trace. So you could actually sit there and do a portrait and like landscape scenery using like a paper clip and aluminum foil. And no one's done that before. Like you could be the next big thing. There you go. I gave you, there's $1 million. I'm probably not $1 million idea. I don't know what the market is for aluminum foil artwork, but you know, I think aluminum foil is literally used for certain kinds of artwork involving paint and involving masking colors. So using unique materials like that to actually try and control how paint gets on a surface, that's a pretty common practice in some of the artist communities. But that's the secret to invention. If you want to make something cool, limit yourself. It's partly why I'm a little bit worried about the future of Mumbo Jumbo and his channel. I love Mumbo, but he started playing with the create mod, and you get what's called power creep. Power creep is this phenomenon where you get into a cycle of getting more tools and more powerful than you were before, and you're able to do more things than you were before, and it becomes self-sustaining. And at some point, there is no more power. So you start playing slowly more and more modded vanilla Minecraft. You can really stop liking Minecraft, and you'll just leave it forever. This is what happened with Seth Bling. This is my personal opinion. He's was my favorite Redstone YouTuber, but he is a man after my own heart and played with command blocks a lot. And I'm a computer scientist myself, and I noticed that he realized there was a lot more power you can do with commands than with plain Redstone, and he was hybridizing them. But he started doing more and more commands, and it got to the point where he was just writing computer code, and it just wasn't fun to play Minecraft anymore. And so what you have to do is kind of segregate those. I've played a lot of modded Minecraft. I'm not speaking against mods. I love mods. They're cool. But the one warning I would give people is never add something that you will take for granted. Never add. A good example is with data packs. Now you can put in new recipes. And you got to be careful with that, because with new recipes, you can get to where you're like, oh, this is better. So like a good counter example is Grian in his life series, Third Life, Last Life, Double Life. Excellent series. So the Hermit crafters killing each other. It's amazing. But if you go and watch those series, they actually changed the recipe for TNT just to make it more pragmatic and more scalable. And that was good for that series. But if you went and you tried to start playing that from now on your vanilla, you would just never like regular TNT anymore. You would just start to hate it, and you would just not want to do anything anymore. You would loathe creeper farms to make gunpowder. It would just become a chore to you, and it would become boring. And that's something that you really have to be careful with, is power creep. So there's kind of the light side and dark side of being creative and doing new things is it's all in the limitations. So if you're limited to what you can use, this is one of the reasons actually why Redstone creators actually, when they're trying to make these compact machinery, why they can do such incredible things. I'm trying to think of an example that I have lying around here, because I'm sure I've got one. I did make this a little bit more compact. What about my random generator over here? So right here, I did my Russian roulette, and so this will blow up on you when you push this button randomly. And so it's based on what is in this chest. So what's going to happen is we are going to, how did I dial this? I'm trying to remember how this worked. There's a signal that's sent out, and it has to be exactly that brightness in order for it to come out. Yeah, okay, so here's how it works. So these aren't stackable. So these only contribute a small amount. And so what's going to happen is it's going to take a lime. So we have this, and so each one of those is going to contribute a negligible percentage. So if I were to, let's use the lime wool. If I were to throw, my slime's confusing me. If I were to throw a lime wool in here, watch how far this lights up. It's only going to be a signal strength of 1. But because you can't stack these it's 20% of the whole thing. So it's going to give you a much higher brightness. And so by doing that, you can light it up. But this is a really compact design for a random number generator. And it's one of those things where creativity really breeds ingenuity. If you say, okay, I'm limited to, like, it has to be hidden in a wall, then I don't have a lot of blocks. One of my favorite redstone things that I haven't really done a video on in speaking in terms of compact designs, is the hidden stairs. I don't know if you know about this. This is a popular one. So right here, you'll do some stairs that come out like this, and what you'll do is you'll have them. Hang on. You'll have some stairs like this, and they will be hidden because they will be pushed in like this up against these blocks. So these blocks look like solid blocks, but they're not. And do you see how stairs turn when they're combined like that? Well, what will happen is these will pull in like this. No, like this. Let me get rid of it real quick. And so then they're hidden. And so it's a perfectly flush set of stairs. So if I come and I get some sticky pistons now that we have one here, here, we're going to need to have one here. If I come and get some sticky pistons. But this is why I'm so insistent about limitation, is when you have like none space, that's when your brilliance starts to shine. So when we push these out, oh, they're already, nope, I'm putting them on the wrong blocks. I'm gonna put it right here. One, there we go. And then we don't need that one or that one. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna push and pull those in, and they will disappear. This is a classic. You might have seen it before, but if we do this and that, see, now you've got a flush, quote-unquote, wall. And so you can't see them exactly. If I had, oh, yeah. And so now you can't tell the difference if I didn't have these in here. So if I just had these be regular stone blocks, you wouldn't be able to see the stairs. They'd be hidden. They'd be invisible. And so when they come out like that, you have stairs. But you can hide stairs in plain sight that way, where nobody can see your stairs. And so you can have a secret attic or something. But yeah, that's a good example of like, oh, I don't have room. It's like, oh, well, I don't have room for this. So now what? And it's like, well, this will power it. Well, that could work, but this will power it too. And so you can actually have a one wide flush. But yeah, so when you're building redstone, when you're trying to invent things, you're going to have a lot of different. I think we're going to wrap up the stream in about 5 minutes or so. When you have a lot of things you're trying to accomplish, try to limit yourself to a few things. Make up a problem, and a lot of times, literally just think of someone in survival, because when you're in survival, you have limited resources. And so one of my inventions, is it in this world? I hope it's in this world. And I actually figured out how to build a flying machine without using any slime. 0 slime whatsoever. And I'm super proud of it, but I don't know where I put it because it kind of wandered off. I don't know if I have it built anymore, but using honey blocks. And there are cases in survival where someone doesn't have a swamp, or they're limited. They can get a bee and they can start making honey, but there's no swamp. They can't find a slime chunk. They're having really bad luck. Maybe it's a server where they can't just wander and find one. And so there might be a use case for that. And so if you're looking to invent things to make life easier, you can combine that to be able to not only just get YouTube views and make a good thing for people, but you really get your creative juices flowing using survival. So there's kind of a yin-yang complementary effect between creative and survival in that way, because by having limitation, it starts to make you ask what you can do, and it takes your creativity and it just pushes it to the limit. I haven't found a use for this yet, but this is a multi-directional. I did a video on it. These are multi-directional flying machines that'll fly diagonally and follow around a pattern, and it's pretty wild. I'm trying to think of another example of limitations. But yeah, so that's kind of my message for the day. I'm learning and doing a lot of things on YouTube, and it's really just limit yourself. Make it hard and you'll shine. That overcoming those challenges, I mean, it's also kind of a archetypal thing when you talk about mythology and the hero's journey. While having people watch you struggle and overcome. Have you ever seen some of the crazy videos that Mumbo's done and everybody watches them? The reason why people like watching Mumbo is because it's that quest to overcome. He wants to solve something. He wants to solve a problem in his survival world, or do something that he doesn't even know if it's possible. And I've got to get better at the way I kind of do that storytelling in building my redstone. but it's something I definitely have to learn from him and some of the great ones. But that's why Hermitcraft is so exciting, is it's the storytelling and it's the adventure aspect, the humor of the trolling. But when they do quests for each other, it's fun to watch the mini games, watch them compete. But that whole hero's journey mindset, which is competition and then striving and struggling to overcome something, really not only is good content for other people, but it also gets your juices flowing when you're trying to invent something or make something cool in Minecraft and impress your friends. And so, yeah, try to do some of that. There are, I think there's two other people here right now. If any other questions or things you'd like to see, I can talk about some of the things we're going to do specifically in the future. Let me try and switch my stream and let's look at some of the polling data. So I did a poll and I'm going to jump over to my desktop. And on my desktop, we are going to pull open a Google Forms. So this is responses. We've got 11 now on what topics sound most interesting. And I put this out there on YouTube. These are some of the things I want to do in the near future. And so they are to teach World Edit and Voxel Sniper. So those are something that I've been able to do. I haven't done a lot of creative content, I'll be honest. I kind of stick to the redstone because whenever I try and do like time lapses, people are just like, yawn. And it's kind of sucks because it's fun. I enjoy doing the creative stuff, but I think it'd be better if I did it with friends and there was a bit more narrative to it. Narrative purpose makes it more entertaining, but doesn't really do well on YouTube. But if people want to learn how to do that, I can show you how to build entire cities really fast. Essentially, if you can put together a palette, you know how to use Voxel Sniper, you know how to use the commands in World Edit to do a little bit of randomization, you can really do a lot really quickly in creative. It's creative on steroids, and so you can build entire worlds really fast. I totally want to do it, but I'm gonna put myself on the screen here. Boop. We're gonna go like this. Nope, like that's fine. But oh, that's what it is. This is taking up the whole screen. There we go. But people don't want to do that. So I haven't done it. But that's going to be what I'm looking at doing, is trying to get the stuff that people are interested in. And there is some interesting expression in that. One of the things I talked about earlier is I do want to do a bunch of video games. I really like my video. You might have seen my recent short. I really enjoy doing those moving platforms, and I wouldn't want to make like a platformer, like a 3D platformer. It'd be a lot of fun. Retro video game map making, I don't think people know what that entails, but I almost built the entire video game of Metroid from scratch years ago, and that was using old logic for command blocks. And so I need to actually go and look at trying to rebuild that. It's kind of a wish list item, but I don't know how interested people are going to be in that, but it would be great to have some help and do stuff together. So I want to do some one chunk build challenges because there's a lot. Remember I said when I just finished my tirade about constraints, but that's why one chunk build challenges. That's why, because go look up one chunk challenge builds. Holy cow, they're gorgeous. They're always gorgeous. Like it's extremely rare to see someone have a one chunk build that isn't just 5-star build. And that's why. That's like I said, that's the secret sauce of being able to innovate and invent things. But rotating manhunts, I know Manhunt series is really popular on YouTube, and maybe that could get us a bunch of stuff. But if people want to have competitions where you run and hide stuff, that'd be fun. I'm thinking of doing some kind of treasure hunt. If you ever remember, if those of us who are older might remember reality TV back in the 2000s, there was this show called The Amazing Race, and it was based off of an really old book called The Greatest Race, but people racing around the world. And I would love to do a treasure hunt race that has clues that you have to follow and have 8 to 12 people maybe in teams and pairs go around the world and have to solve puzzles. And I can use redstone to build some of these puzzles and design some of these things, but to be able to make them go, and I would want to do it really big. So we're talking probably a map size of the adventure map for this would be around 5,000 to 10,000 blocks across, maybe 5,000 by 5,000, 5K by 5K, or 10K by 10K. And so it would be, there'd be all kinds of biomes, and so you'd have to like hunt in the jungle for the next quest, and you'd have to find the next one up buried in the snow on top of a mountain. But I would love to do an around the world where you have to find a clue in like every biome of the game. Would be even neater is if I could go as far as to get it so that you have to pass through them all, so that when as you finish it, you get the advancement saying, "Hey, you got all the biomes," because that's really walking in all the biomes is one of the advancements that's really hard to get. So that'd be neat. Um, One of the other things I'm looking at doing is probably uh, probably an SMP, and I want to do one that's redstone themed, but it has to have a limitation. So what I think I'm going to do, because limitations are the only thing that make things entertaining, having the challenge and intensity, I'm going to make it so that there are going to be, thank you, Patriots for Life. We'll get there. Give it time. I'm new. I have to learn how to do thumbnails. I have to learn how to do tags in the algorithm. I have to learn how to keep people's interest and not be boring in the first 30 seconds of a video. Man, the first 30 seconds of some of my videos are so bad, but it's just not written in a way where I could cut it easily. If I just cut it, it would kind of derp the video, and I'd have to do a lot of cutting. And so I'm just going to kind of leave them, especially because some of those are my most successful videos. And let's not kill the golden goose. I'm not gonna. My videos that are actually getting views, I should not edit them. No touchy. They could be doing a lot better than they are, but it's just not a good gamble right now, because that'd be the fastest way to kill my channel, is to get half of the views and subscribers coming in to disappear on accident. But I want to do, for a redstone themed SMP, I want to do where you're required to use redstone to do almost anything. And so redstone, so what does that look like? So for one, I want to make it so that most of the tools are useless. I want to make it so that you can break like dirt and so forth, but that's about it. You can't really break stone. And so pickaxes out the window, you're going to have to go and build a mining bore in order to do some diamond mining. And so being able to defeat the Ender Dragon, but let's say you're not allowed to use a sword or a bow. It's just like, well, what do you use? And so, yes, there's the bed cheesing. I know about that. Speedrunners do that. I'm a big fan of watching speedruns. But that that's kind of what I'm thinking for a redstone themed SMP. And so people will have to travel around. I'll eliminate certain blocks or certain recipes, so you will have to build redstone machinery to get places to accomplish things. And so it's going to be as vanilla as possible, because I don't want to overuse mods like Create Mod, like I talked about. Those can kind of ruin the fun of a survival world, of a vanilla world. But I want to do, long term, you'll kind of start to hate vanilla Minecraft. But I want to do something like that, where we start taking data packs, and let's say, for example, every mob drops a slime block. How cool would that be? Like, oh, you got to start in survival. It's hard mode. You can't punch creepers or you'll die. But you can build a flying machine and get the hell out of there, like super fast. And so if you're able to, if all the mobs drop redstone and slime blocks or something, and so I'm still, that one's still in the works, but that's what I'm thinking right now. One of the ones I won't talk too much about is the game themed one. I want to do something where like everybody owns a chunk, but you're all on a giant chessboard, and each chunk is a square on that chessboard. And there's some really interesting game mechanics I'm thinking of, but this is something that'd be very easy for someone to steal. And so I'm trying to grow, and it's going to be like a year before I probably can get to it, so I don't want to give too much away, but that's going to be really neat. So imagine that you're building, well, I can't keep my mouth shut. So imagine that everybody owns a chunk, and then whenever it's one team's turn, they're able to kill one player, and whoever kills that player, their house is in a chunk, and that chunk is cut, pasted over top of their chunk because they were killed. And so essentially everyone's living in a home, but their home is the chess piece. And so everybody each so you'd have to have, what, 32 people to play it. But that would be a lot of fun to basically make. You'd have the white team and the black team, and you'd be able to go and basically be chess pieces in real time. That'd be a super fun one, but I'd have to code up some data packs and so forth to make this happen. And then last things, I'm thinking about doing some community classes. Essentially, I'm going to be starting up servers in the near future anyway, and there's a lot of interest in helping with builds, and I would like to get to where some of these builds or some of these worlds other people can contribute to. And allow people to help and teach, because I want to create a space as I become a bigger YouTuber where I can help people, because I want the next generation to learn Redstone. Not just because video games, but Minecraft is fun and all, but I learned a lot in my computer science degree from doing that. Multiplexers and some of the other logics, building a computer in Minecraft. Once you start understanding Redstone components that are based, it's computer logic. You're learning electrical engineering, and you don't even realize it. And people who are a lot younger, it is preparing you for your future career. And so it's, I don't want to take the fun out of it. Let's be real. We don't want to take the fun out of Minecraft. But this isn't, it's one of it's a really important life skill, and learning Redstone can really pay dividends later in life, because having to think about logic and timings on things can teach you a lot about like for example, finance. And so trying to get your timings right on your peters, where your piston is pushing and pulling the right way. If you learned that at a young age, I would bet you'd be able to handle calls and puts a little bit better on your investing, on your stock portfolio. And so if you understand that you need to be, there are some other factors at play, and it's not as simple as getting the timing right, because there are other blocks that can interfere. Once getting logic into your life and into your brain, which Redstone does, really makes a big difference long run. This is one of my more interesting. I think this was a timer for this going down. It had to be. Yeah. I think I failed. That's what it was, is I failed to make this design work in a way that didn't have the one all the way under. But learning to get your timings just right so that things go out and they go back in. Let's see, you have to pull that in before it's too late. And how long do you need to do it for? Without looking, how long do you need to do? How many ticks is each of these? And so once you learn specifics of those, they can be really helpful later in life, just kind of getting a general idea. And OR gates are the foundations of logic, not only in English and grammar, but in philosophy, in computer science. Essentially, a redstone torch acts like an inverter, and together these things with redstone act much like a transistor, and you can do anything with them. And so that's why anything you can do with redstone. Back in the day, people were making, like, I think some recent YouTubers have still done it, where they make a MS Paint program in Redstone. Oh, I have no idea how long that took. Honestly, probably not too long, because this design right here is... because I kind of grind at it, it probably took like tops two nights. But I tend to, when I was on a spree, I was trying to do a video every other day. So it was just beat on it and beat on it, beat it on it until I figured it out. I just didn't give up. But anyway, so that's kind of it for that. If there's any other questions, I will take questions right now, and then I think we will say goodbye for now. I will wait a second because there's like a 10-15 second delay. It's ridiculous. But any other questions about future plans? Make sure, if you're not, join the Discord server. I will make sure the link in the description works. It works in most videos, but trying to keep that in sync for all videos is a real pain. You can change defaults, but there's no way to mass change all your videos, at least not that I'm aware of. And so I'd have to go through each one and make sure there's not an old expired Discord link. The one that's in there right now should never expire. But anyway, yeah. And so if you join the Discord, I'm always willing to help. Right now, because of the size of the channel, and for the foreseeable future, because I'm not expecting to be some billionaire, I should be available to help anytime. And so I helped somebody. Right now, the donut elevator that we previewed a little bit earlier is that one's really popular. There's some people who are working on that right now, trying to get that in their survival world. And I will say, you do need to make sure that you build these in creative mode first. Don't go and try and build in survival first, because gravity makes things so much harder. Because on survival, it's not as simple as, oh, I'm going to come up here and let me see, did I put that in right? Let me look at this angle right here. No, you're on scaffolding, and like you built out with some dirt blocks, and you can kind of see, but you don't really have a good view of anything. And then you have to go around it to the other side, so you're like, we don't fall and die. And so trying to get around to the other side on some of your builds can be a real pain. So yeah, that's another elevator tip I forgot earlier. Definitely start on creative first. Once you've done one before and you know how it works, that's when you can get carried away. That's when you can go crazy. And if you want to use Lightmatic, there are some people who use that. I've never used it, but Lightmatic supposedly it's a mod that you can use in survival, and it places a ghost of a schematic in, and allows you to copy it. That's how, spoiler alert, that's how the Hermit crafters build their stuff. They get their stuff beautiful and perfect in a creative world because they're literally being paid to be entertaining on Hermitcraft, and then they come into survival. And they get the pieces they need and then they build it. But that's something you could do with Redstone. That's how people like Doc M did his elevator. I could show you, in fact, that build because I got it from Purple Dragon Nuke. I think I have it right here. The Hermitcraft elevator. So this is Doc M's elevator that was having a problem. He was talking about it on Twitter. It took him a few days to figure this out. This was made for him by, I believe it was Purple Dragon, right? Right? Yes. And so the tricky part was the way Purple encoded this. Not how I would do it. I think this could be really shrunk down personally. But what it's doing is you've got one bit for each type. And so you can see right now it's on floor 5. So if we come up here, I'm going to put this I'm going to put the pole on the forms away. But we come to floor 5. You've got floor, where is it? There it is. And so now the beauty of it is he's got this open where you can say, hey, take me to floor 3. I'm not really a fan of that. I feel like the button should be on the inside of the elevator. I don't know about you. I am working on a 3x3 design of this. But see, now we look for, and ding. Isn't that pleasant? But yeah, I'm pretty sure he tried to use Lightmatic for this, and he was still having some issues. It is not simple. There are better ways of doing this without getting into it. No shame on him, but he did a really good job for it. It looks like he was kind of commissioned to do it, which, let's be honest, you're kind of on a time crunch, and so I am impressed, though. It is a well laid out, well labeled, and color coded. I think he could probably have slapped some more signs on, but just to kind of explain what each piece is. But for those of us who have experience, we know what it is. But yeah, for example, he did put some here. Well, elevators at 7. Oh, it's just like at 8. But yeah, so this is kind of what people do in their creative worlds, and then they can go build it in their survivor world, because there's no way you'd be able to invent this or get it working without. I suspect he had a basic concept that was repeated all the way up and down, but it does change a lot at height, which slightly irks me because I like things modular. I make them simple. My bias is, to be fair, I'm a software engineer. I write code, and so this is not always practical for real world. So for all I know, he's got something better. But I am in the works of trying to build something like this. This is not even a prototype. This is me just thinking out loud. But I am going to eventually have this elevator someday in a 3x version. It's just not a priority right now. But yeah, so next video to look out for. I'm going to go ahead and end stream in a few seconds, but thank you for coming. Next video to look out for is the Ethos Shulker box search engine. I just completed recording for that, and so that I reverse engineered it based on him showing it. The poor guy spent hours trying to figure out how to get some of the details working. I found 2 bugs that might help clean it up a little bit and make it a little less wonky for anybody trying to copy him. And I left those tips in, and so I'll show that off. But that's going to be the next video, and let me know. We'll see if there's any views after this recording. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you so much. It's I've heard, this is just like little birdie told me that apparently streams, if people watch them after, it can do wonders for your channel retention rate. That's just a rumor, but retention rate on videos usually tanks down to like 30%, and like a good video tanks down to 60%. But like the fact that you've got somebody watching more than an hour of a video, like YouTube algorithm apparently loves that. So we'll see. I've tried to keep things interesting. So that's it for now. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment before. You can do the like and subscribe and all that stuff if you'd like. Leave it up to you. And I've been Dr. Plasma, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening. Bye.